It was built by a guy named Thomas Hughes. His father was the local postmaster, and he called it the Big House. Everybody else called it the Queen's College because they didn't think they needed so much resort. In 1828, Mr. Hughes was elected to the U.S. Congress. He was the first person from Cape May County to go to Washington. And hence the name Congress Hall became called in sort of his honor, having gone to D.C. as our representative. Then it went through the Miller. No, that's the Millers. And there's interesting old articles like Henry Clay's visit to Cape May and Congress Hall is chronicled in this New York Daily. We've been curating this over the last 5 years, really. Good morning, how are you folks? So, he expanded the building, and it became one of the largest hotels in the country. And in the sort of 1840s, 50s, 60s, Cape May was the spot. There was a hotel that people not but we were plagued by fire. 1878, 38 acres of our downtown burned, including Congress Hall. So you can see, and the town was really level. At the time, it was purchased by E.C. Knight, who was a Collingswood person and a trolley car inventor in Philly. So he rebuilt the hotel. Hi. I have 3 minutes to do this, so I'm going fast.
Hi, how are you?
Well, rebuilt brick, and that's the building that's here today. So this building goes to 1878. There's E.C. Knight. His daughter inherited it. She had a rocky relationship with the city for a while.
Mayor?
Not that we have.
That was before your time. I've been around quite that.
She kept it closed for a number of years because she was waiting for the city to put roads around here. They had focused on East Cape May at the time. But when she finally resolved it, she renovated the hotel extensively in the late teens, early 20s, and Congress Hall reopened then. Very much the building that's here today. So through the years, this is John Philip Sousa playing on the lawn of the hotel.
Oh, wow.
He wrote a march called the Congress Hall March. It's not one of his better marches, but we have played it.
It's still yours.
Fun picture. You see the pot here, the chef, there's the pot.
Oh, that's
some of the old dishes that we've collected, and we actually recreated the page.
Wow.
In so the hotel, the Knight sold it to this gentleman, and he took the hotel to the 1950s, put the bar into the hotel, had the hotel through the war, and there's a hurricane that took the veranda off at one point. He sold it in the 60s.
The round Congress Hall? Is that round?
This is, back in the 50s, the nightclub was built outside of the building because this was unair conditioned and still breathes, so they didn't want the noise at the nightclub, so they built a modern building down on the street front. It's now Uncle Bill's Pancake House.
And in between it was a Howard Johnson.
That's right.
Really?
And this neon sign there on the right that says bar and lounge is down in our nightclub now. But Joe Euler was in the 50s, and then he sold it to another congressman, Charlie Sandman, who was our congressman down here for a number of years, and Gil Ramagosa, who was a Wildwood promoter. They owned it during the time when Cape May was probably the sleepiest in the 60s. Wildwood was boomtown. The motel was the new product. Cape May's old buildings were sort of dowdy, and everyone started to debate whether they would tear them down. Ramagosa wanted to put a Ferris wheel on the beach, and Cape May was not into that idea. So they got kind of annoyed, and they called up the preacher, who happens to be my grandfather, and sold him Congress Hall in 1968. So
the preacher, really?
Yeah, he was a fundamentalist radio preacher. He was on sort of the first right-wing radio preacher, my grandfather, named Carl McIntyre. And he's a local character. Anyway, he took the bar out of the building and was really an alternate user during a time when the town was quite sleepy. And while he was building and using this as a Bible conference or retreat center, the town was having its own sort of come to Jesus over, are we going to preserve or are we not? And preservation is one. In this very close election, the town was really saved largely because of a two-vote election. And the preservation of the town as it is, instead of tearing down these old buildings and building houses. So I grew up in these buildings as a kid, and I saw the town really moving forward, but my grandfather's buildings were sort of on hard times. That's our family. That's my name.